Hey everybody, Matthias here, also known as Rambler Guy. Welcome back to the channel and a new video discussing my tabletop role-playing game, Darkness of Ur, that is currently in a broad playtest period. If you want to playtest the game, there's a link to the packet in the description below that goes to Patreon, but it is not behind the paywall of Patreon. It is open to the public, so you can just download it from there and give it a go. All I ask for is some feedback. Now, if you do want to support the channel and my work here, you feel free to become a patron. It would be always appreciated. So in the last video, we talked about general mechanics of the game, subsystems, and combat. Today, I want to talk to you about magic in Darkness of Ur. So we have two different things. We have powers of the faith and powers of sorcery. Powers of sorcery is kind of what you think. It's just general arcane magic, for lack of a better term. To speak an incantation, you must first make a successful focus test. Focus is a general skill. So again, one of my design principles behind this was that really anybody can talk to the gods or conjure magic. Just some people can do it better than others. So you can make a focus test. Your roll is modified by the challenge level of the incantation, which is equal to the mind point cost of the incantation. So we'll talk about that in a second. Tip here, I wrote this in here, roll both your focus test die and the incantation MP cost die simultaneously. It just speeds things up. Each failed focus test results in a stacking -2 modifier applied to your next focus test, unless you take a minute to compose yourself. In a minute, that's 6 rounds. So rolling a fumble results in a misspoken table. Rolling a flourish cuts the MP cost in half, round it down, along with a surge in power that is listed in the incantation description. Like I mentioned once before, if you run out of mind points, each spoken incantation will actually cost you body points instead. So speaking too many incantations could kill you. But I see it as cinematic and kind of heroic. Imagine you're dealing with a huge monster or adversary or army, whatever, and your friends are fleeing, and the only thing to stop them is this sorcerer. And so he's down to maybe 3 or 5 body points left, and it's just been a grueling fight, and he's going to sacrifice himself for his friends. That is a meaningful and glorious death, for sure. So I also have something here called blood magic. This is rumored in dark corners. And basically, instead of losing mind points, you would lose body points in the amount rolled. So this could kill you, but you're able to cast more mentally. But it is highly illegal. And you need both a ritual dagger, which you can't buy, you kind of got to find it, and get the Blood Witch trait, which you don't start with. You kind of have to get that one over time. Misspoken table here. So say you roll a 13, the incantation costs double the mind points, and you cannot speak an incantation for another 1d4 days. So don't fumble. So a list of incantations, there are some here with skull and crossbones that are illegal. But if we look at something like control, this is illegal to use. If you get caught using this within the boundary or within a town, there's a chance you could be put in prison or immediately killed. Description, you control an individual for 1d4 minutes. This is why this is illegal. They do your bidding but cannot cause physical harm to themselves. The mind control takes its toll on the victim, inflicting 1d6 mind points damage, and they are stunned for an hour. So the person you are targeting, it drains them. And here's what I mean with the mind point cost and challenge level roll. So it's 1d12. You never know. It could be 1 or 12 that this costs you in mind points and maybe body points to speak this incantation. And that is your challenge level. So say you have a 15 in your focus skill and you roll a 10. This would cost you 10 mind points to cost and a -10 modifier. So if you'd have, say, 15 in focus, you have to roll a 5 or lower. That's why if you go back to kind of the overview of the game and creating characters, you could go up to 41 plus in a skill in a attribute, which gives you a +10 to a skill. And if you already put 10 points into it, that gives you 20. Well, this casting or speaking control can still be really, really challenging. So Something like cleanse, where you cleanse food and water of all poisons, parasites, etc., making it perfectly clean to eat or drink, it's 1d4. So that's your cost. So it could be 1 to 4. It's easier to cast. The flourishes listed here, like control. You control an individual for 1d4 hours instead of minutes. If you roll a flourish, and it inflicts 1d8 damage, and they are stunned for a day instead of an hour. Defense, this is if somebody casts or speaks control against you, the adventurer, you need to make a fortitude test, modified by their magic challenge level. So you can see a full list of the different incantations. Now we get to powers of faith. So manifestation of powers, it really depends on the ancestry. They are a little bit different. Now, Urlanders, for instance, they have blessings. They do not worship a large pantheon of gods. Basically, there have been lesser deities in their old religions, and it's all become the order of faiths, the one true faith, so to speak. Freeans have favors, so they ask their gods for favors. Each god has a dedicated favor and an ill favor. And if we look, for instance, here at Freean gods, the god of Mazaru, who's the creator god of all that is. His dedicated favor is favor of sight. That means you are boosted when you want to call upon this one. And ill favor is favor of darkness. You are hindered in that regard. Wild Path connections here. This is Aelin culture. This is basically their divine power. Using powers of faith is the exact same way as speaking incantations and powers of sorcery. You have a miscast table here as well, which is basically the same. Then you have a list of Urlander blessings. For instance, here, Blessing of Daylight. You can turn any object you hold into a light source, illuminating an area of medium distance. Costs 1d4. On a flourish, you illuminate an area can double if you choose so. Then you have a Blessing of Healing, Blessing of Protection, Blessing of Restoration. Freean favors. If we look here, the favor of Fortitude relieves anyone suffering from the effects of the exposure condition due to cold. So it's a 1d8 cost. The creature and the flourish is immune to exposure from cold for a day. And then the final one you have here are the connections. This is Wild Path. This is what the Aelins can do. Say, earthworks. A wall of earth or stone rises within a medium distance of yourself. Costs 1d6. Flourish, you can create a small structure if you chose to. And that is a quick overview of how magic works in Darkness of Ur. So I try to go for something that's, very ancestry specific, as well as whether you're casting divine or arcane magic. On top of that, I wanted to make sure that any adventurer could tap into this. Just some are going to be better at it than others. If you are not that adept at it, but you're very desperate, it could really save you, but it could also kill you. So I'm trying to create the chaos of magic that got unleashed by the Grimm, this kind of lack of structure, wild type of magic in that sense. And I hope I kind of recreated it with this. If you want to check this out, like I said, link down in the description to the playtest packet on Patreon. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button. Future video, I'm going to talk a little bit about the creatures you could encounter in Darkness of Ur. So until next time, I am Matthias, also known as Realm Builder Guy, and I'll talk to you soon.